Hi, yeah, so I'm Maggie, and I'm here at Borders with John, and we're about to see Jesse Ventura, and I'm going to show him my book, Wonder Powers, The Power of Truth Will Save the World, so that he can help take these ideas forward as well and help us save the world along with his book that he's going to sign for me. And I think I'm going to ask him because I understand that he has had quantum biofeedback sessions before that have helped him, and we have this big conspiracy going on where the FDA agent was paid off apparently by a drug company people who planted lies in the media calling our inventor a felon. And so we're suing CBS for $30 million because we lost a lot of business, and they're destroying the health of America and the world by not allowing the truth to come out. So I'm going to see if Jesse Ventura might have any ideas to help and move that forward and put it in the press and help us fight, because he is the fighter, and he's the bomb. I mean, it's Jesse Ventura. You have conspiracy theory. So anyway, we'll see what he says.
Phone calls and literally working probably from 5 a.m. all the way till midnight for about 12 or 13, 14 days in a row now pretty well. But that's the evil of writing a book, you know. You got to get it out there. You certainly have to publicize it so that people know that it's there. But I'm happy because tomorrow I head back to Mexico. And the waves supposedly have been very good lately because we're getting earthquakes everywhere. So there is a positive to the earthquakes for us people. You know, earthquakes equal waves. But hopefully not too big ones. But thank you. It's terrific to be here. The turnout is remarkable. The turnout for the book. We just got word that a partial week and we're already number 4 on the New York Times bestseller list. So, and hopefully we'll keep rising up and going up, because this book, I have to tell you, is a difficult book to do. My last book, American Conspiracies, of course, I got waylaid for it by many people in the media and all that. You know, it seems if you question anything of the official government story today, you're then labeled a conspiracy theorist, and they box you into a corner. And of course, a conspiracy theorist, to their definition, is a fruitcake, a nut, who doesn't, you know, understand anything. And so Dick and I, after the last book, we thought, well, what do we do for the next one? And we thought, how do we break this label? And we actually thought of this book and started working on it 2 to 3 months before the WikiLeaks thing broke. And so we felt, well, let's do a book on government documents. That way they can't accuse us of, you know, any type of, you know, what is this crazy stuff and what is that crazy stuff? Well, I'll tell you, the documents in this book are crazier ever than than American conspiracies I think ever could be. And these are the documents of our own government. Every document in this book is in the public domain. We broke no laws. We aren't outing anyone. We're not breaking any type of security at all. And in the epilogue of the book, we show where you, if you're an interested reader, can do your own investigating, go out there and find documents on your own. And when we were doing this book, one thing came to us that astounded me. It was unbelievable. Last year alone, the United States government classified top secret 16 million documents. Now, that must mean just about every document they do. I just can't imagine what 16 million documents look like. We printed 63 and got a whole book out of it. You know, what does 16 million look like? And how can there be that many secrets? Clearly, again, we have every right to know. I've been challenged saying, well, certain things should be secret and we shouldn't know everything our government does. But I counter that by saying, wait a minute. I'm a taxpayer. I have every right to know when they take money from me and put it in the public domain exactly what it's being spent on.
Yeah.
We have that right. It is our money. It is our money. And you have every right to know. And when you look at these documents, you're going to go, what the hell is going on here? Our money is being spent to do some of the things that they have in this book and these documents in this book. So I have to pull my glasses out because I truly have to sometimes review, because Dick and I are already on to the next book, which is on a different topic. So in light of that, it's almost like you got to go back and review. We finished this book before the new year, and we're on to a new one now. And when you do that, you kind of forget. You get past the one you're doing and to move on. But so I'll help myself here with the glasses a little bit. But we divided the book into sections. Introduction first, which is why you need to read this book. Part one is our scandalous post-war history, which goes basically back roughly in my life. I was born in 1951, and we kind of started it from my life forward. Part two is government, military, and corporate secrets. Part three is shady White Houses. Part four, dedicated all to itself, is of course the one you're not allowed to talk about, 9/11. Don't talk about that. Don't ask any questions about that. They told you what happened. Accept it, right? Our government would never lie to us, would they? Part five is the war on terror. Now, and then epilogue, again, is the resources for curious readers, so you can go yourself and do some of your own research if you have time. Here's what I find interesting. Barry Bonds, he could go to jail. I don't know if they acquitted him or not. I haven't seen the end of the trial. I know they're in deliberation. But whatever, he could go to jail. And for what? Lying to the government. Now, Roger Clemens is down the road. He likewise can go to jail for lying to the government. And dear Martha Stewart, who I can't figure out what danger she is, but she's now a hardcore criminal, and she went to jail not for insider trading. Those charges were dropped. She went to jail for lying to the government, which begs the question, so we lie to our government and we go to jail. What happens when they lie to us? When they lie to us now, what happens? We go to war, that's right. Or, that's one of the alternatives, we go to war. It seems to me, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting the raw end of the stick on both sides here. How come they don't go to jail when they lie to us? Now, going back to, let's go to WikiLeaks for a moment. In my view, WikiLeaks is a hero.
Yeah.
Especially when we talk about 16 million documents they tell me I can't read. Now, I'm still trying to figure that out. Because when I was in the teams, the Navy Underwater Demolition SEAL teams, I was required to have a top secret security clearance. Requirement. Full background check. They go back. They check everything. They even question who your kindergarten teacher was. Damn near. Now, so I have a top secret clearance. Then I become, later in life, a mayor. I later become a governor. Now, of course, I'm back being a citizen, just as all you are. No more, no less. Why do I lose my security clearance for being a citizen? Why all of a sudden can't I see these documents, which I could when I was on active duty? I could when I was serving in office, I assume. But now as a citizen, I'm denied to see our documents. And I haven't done anything other than leave office and go back to the private sector, something I wish the majority of our politicians would do. Leave office and go back to the private sector, but they don't do that. By the way, please don't ever call me a politician, because I am a statesman. Here's the difference. Here's the difference. A politician makes it their career to get elected. A statesman goes and serves and then goes back to what he or she used to do after serving no more than 2 terms, but I do it in 1. I was 1-term mayor, 1-term governor, and I went back to the private sector both times. So I prefer, if I'm referred to anything, I am a statesman, not a politician. And in fact, the media never talks about my election much up in Minnesota. There's a few reasons why. I don't know how many of you know, but I only raised $300,000 to become the governor of Minnesota. I believe at that time the 2 parties and their candidates spent $12 million to try to get it. And they're way more than that today. Remember, these are 1998 numbers we're talking here. You know, it's doubled and tripled since then, or more. Well, the reason I feel good about that is the fact my father was a World War II vet, 8th grade education, and I remember when I was growing up, and I was a teenager one day, he said to me, you know, all politicians are crooks. And I said, oh, come on, Dad, they can't all be crooks. You can't make a blanket statement like that. He said, yes, I can. You know why? And I said, why? He said, because they spend $1 million for a job that only pays $100,000. And I always sat back and thought, in my dad's simple way of life and simple way of thinking, you know, he's absolutely correct. You wouldn't do that in the private sector. You're all private sector, most of you people. Would you invest $1 million one year to make $100,000? That sounds like what you lose if you go to the casino, you know? But, I mean, it was ridiculous. So the one regret I have in life is that my mother and father were gone and never saw me become governor. But I know if my father is somewhere, he can look down on his son today and say his kid's not a crook. Because according to my Roosevelt High School math, and I only went to high school, according to my Roosevelt High School math, I made $120,000 a year for 4 years, which I believe that means $480,000 I made for the 4 years, and I only spent $300. I don't think there's another elected official in the United States of America over the last 50 years that can make that statement, that they made more money than what they spent to get the office. I also never spoke to a lobbyist. I never met with a lobbyist the entire 4 years I was governor. So why do you think they wanted me out? There were a lot of lobbyists losing their jobs, because a lobbyist's job is to get access to the elected official so you can bribe them and pay them off. That's the system we have today. By the way, let me say this. We need to take our country back.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling for a violent revolution, by no means, but I am calling for a revolution. And the revolution we can do is as simple as the nose on your face, and I'll use another cliche, but unfortunately most can't see it. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees. And here's what it is, people. It's this simple. Stop voting for Democrats and Republicans.
You got
Vote
it.
for anyone else. Anyone else. For people that tell you, well, that's a wasted vote. No, it's not. If you vote your heart and conscience and vote for the candidate that most represents you, how can that be a wasted vote? A wasted vote is when you think you're trying to pick the winner in a horse race, which is how most people vote. They're wasting their votes. So that's one of the things now. What else can be done? We're here in California. You guys got that crazy stuff where you can put things on the ballot. By the way, I'm extremely disappointed in you all for not passing the legalization of marijuana. Right now, it would certainly help your budget, wouldn't it? To have a new outside source of revenue to the tune of billions of dollars, probably. Whether you agree with pot or not, get the money. Because my mother told me, my mom lived through the prohibition of alcohol, and she told me, she said the war on drugs is identical to the prohibition of alcohol. All you're doing is making criminals rich and powerful.
That's it.
And that's it. And I have a better quote, okay? Here's my quote. Marijuana is to rock and roll what beer is to baseball. Now imagine if you went to the ball game and you couldn't have a beer. There would be outrage, wouldn't there? Well, I'm outraged that I can't go to a rock and roll concert and smoke a joint. Nobody got hurt. I grew up in the 60s. Nobody got hurt. And in fact, in those days, you could go there with nothing. Because in them days, the joint got lit at the end of the row and got passed down, and the person that lit it never saw it again. And those were good times. I mean, the only side effects were you ate too much, yeah, but you sure slept well. Now, and when we're piggybacking on that for a moment, I hope and I want to tell everyone, don't drink fluoride in your water. Our government started doing that in the early 50s, and why did they do it? For your teeth, right? That's what they told you. Excuse me, can't you brush your teeth and use mouthwash without the government? I can. I've bought in houses that don't what. Here's why. Do you know what fluoride is the main component of? Prozac. Prozac. So when you drink fluoridated water, you're drinking Prozac. Think of that a minute. Well, and guess who discovered and first did that? The Nazis, you got it. And we figured, well, if it's good enough for the Nazis, it ought to be good enough for us, I guess. I mean, so, get away from that stuff. You can put the things on your water and all that that'll remove it. Get it out of there. And what's it for? It's to make you into a zombie. It's to dumb you down. It's to take away your emotions so that you'll go along and get along. You won't cause no troubles then. You'll just vote for Democrats and Republicans. That's what they want. I'll open for questions in a moment, but in going through the book, this was not a fun book to do. And in fact, one interview lady said, "Governor, I read your book and I couldn't sleep for 2 days." I went, "Good." That's the reaction I want. This book is more terrifying than anything Stephen King could write. No, and I respect Mr. King. He's a phenomenal writer, but the difference is this. What Stephen King writes is simply what's in his head and his memory, and it's fiction, and he makes it up. These documents are real, people. These documents come from your and my government, and they're more terrifying than what Stephen writes about. A couple of them that really jump out at you, okay? Documents 24 and 25. Emergency detention camps and civilian inmate labor program. Anybody else wonder about that? Who's going in these detention camps, and why do they need free labor? Well, I guess it's okay to bust the unions, but whatever. Military experiments on our own troops. I'm a veteran. I'm outraged over that. Outraged. Completely. And then, of course, let's go to my favorite topic of late 9/11. How many, like a veteran like me, the big question I had that day was, where the hell were our planes? Where was our defense system? Well, found out. 46, the Pentagon stand-down order on 9/11. Up until that, June 1st of 2001, prior to that, it was up to base commanders. If the FAA called them and said, we got a problem in the air, the base commander could make the call, send up the jets. June 1st of 2001, that was changed. Then it was changed to nothing could go up without approval of the Department of Defense, the DOD. And for those that you remember on 9/11, they couldn't find Rumsfeld, or Rummy as I call him, for a couple of hours. So you had to stand down because no one could go airborne. No one could go airborne. Okay? We follow that with document 47, the free fall of Building 7. Now the thing that disturbs me here is that 50% or more of Americans have no idea that a third building went down that day. That at 5:20 that afternoon, a 49-story building wasn't hit by any planes, dropped in less than 7 seconds to the ground. Well, and this is the government using the term free fall. Well, what free fall means is that's falling like when you jump out of an airplane and you're dropping until you pull your chute. That's called free fall. The only way that happens is to remove all resistance, otherwise you're going against Newton's law of physics, which of course is when a moving object hits one that's not moving, they slow down. That's physics. You can't change that. You can't manipulate it. You can't say, well, it didn't work that way this particular time. It's that way all the time, whether you like it or not. So how could it fall at free fall? There's only one way. Removal of the resistance. And there's only one way I know that happens: demolition. And I did know a little about that, having spent 3 years with Underwater Demolition Team 12 of the United States Navy, where I was trained by the very best. The best demo guys we got in the world. How does that happen? Remove free fall. Unbelievable. And also, of course, document 48, evidence of insider stock trading before 9/11. That means people had knowledge, they knew the stocks were going to go a certain way, and it's called insider trading and profiting. And there's evidence of that, but you know why? Well, I won't wreck the book for you. I'll let you read on your own. That will tell you. Then we get to, here's the next one that gets to me. 57, 58, and 59, the paper trail on the CIA's destruction of 92 torture videos. Now, we no longer have the high ground, people. We torture people. We're now a country who tortures, thanks to you know who. Well, and him and Dick. I will say this to you. I've been waterboarded. I got waterboarded at what we call SEER School in the Navy's Survival, Escape, Resistance, Evasion, and it is torture. The first thing, anybody ever jump in the water and get water up your sinuses? You know how that burns? Well, believe me, this thing fills up all your sinuses, and then it gives you the complete sensation of drowning. So now you've got Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who confessed to 9/11, but they admitted they only waterboarded him 170 some times. I got news. There's no one in this room that would not confess to 9/11. Why do you think we don't let police do it? Because there's no credibility. You're going to say whatever it takes to stop the torture. You are. You're going to admit to whatever it takes to stop the torture. And I'm outraged that we're not having a public trial now, because I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're only going to tell us certain things about this trial. We won't hear all the evidence. Then they're going to convict these guys, sentence them to death, and put them to death. And then they're going to come to people like me and say, see, you conspiracy people on 9/11 were wrong. Because these guys, we convicted them, and now they're put to death. That's the plan, people. Trust me. And remember, you heard it from me. When that comes to being real, watch what happens. Now, I was on with Judge Napolitano, the only decent guy on Fox, to my opinion, just about. And he told me, and he's a judge, he said, they're breaking the Constitution again, Governor. The Constitution requires they be tried either in New York, in Pennsylvania, or Virginia. That's where the homicides took place. And then one other big thing. We're supposed to be a country of the rule of law, right? How come they've never indicted bin Laden? Well, no. Okay, but think about it. They're chasing him throughout the world, supposedly. They're going to kill him when they find him, if they do. Don't you have to indict him first? Charge him with a crime? You can't just tell everybody. That's like the Wild West or whatever. You got to indict him, which means you don't have to have him in custody. You bring together the grand jury. The government puts forth an amount of their evidence, and the grand jury says, there's enough here for a trial. But the person is still innocent until proven guilty. All it means is now you can have a trial, and then he has to be proven guilty before you can convict him. Why? Why are we breaking these basic rules of our country? And then, of course, they've saddled us with that lovely Patriot Act. And I'll say this. I don't know, when Barack Obama got elected, I was excited. But now that Barack's been in 3 years, I can't tell the difference between him and George Bush.
Yeah.
I can't tell any difference. You know, all the same things are going on. Everything's identical. And let me just review for him. We'll get to, and then you got the WikiLeaks. And let me read this. Sarah Palin says about Julian Assange, an anti-American operative with blood on his hands who should be hunted down, who should be with the we should hunt him down with the same urgency we pursue Al-Qaeda and the Taliban leaders. Okay. Like I wrote in the book, she stopped short of saying that he should be hunted down like the caribou she shoots in Alaska. Then you got Hillary Clinton, who said it's an attack on the international community. You got Mike Huckabee, called for the execution of whoever leaked the cables. Newt Gingrich referred to Assange as an enemy combatant. And Joe Biden described him as closer to being a high-tech terrorist. So people, it's both sides of the aisle. Now, they also called him a traitor, right? Well, these people all want to be president, and they're such knuckleheads. They don't know you can't charge someone with treason unless they're a citizen. I learned that probably back in junior high or high school and knew it when I was in the Navy. You got to be a citizen. This guy's Australian with a website, I believe, in Switzerland. But these presidential hopefuls tell you we should charge him with treason. Well, the person I worry about is this Bradley Manning, this young private. Because I'll tell you what, they're holding him right now and he's getting tortured. I've heard that they deprive him of sleep, they strip him naked, who knows what else. And here's my point.